The station's central chamber glittered with artificial splendor. Curved walls adorned with planetary emblems rose toward a transparent dome, through which distant stars glimmered against the void. Beneath this celestial display, 12 representatives of the Deathworld Alliance arranged themselves in ascending order around the circular platform, positioned precisely according to their planet's hardship classification. Grand Chancellor Asha Vel stood at the highest point of the chamber, her pale green complexion shimmering under the council lights. Like all Vakai, her elongated limbs and triple-jointed fingers were adaptations from her homeworld's crushing gravity. As a Class 11 representative, she commanded respect through both physiological superiority and political maneuvering. "The council will come to order," she announced, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "Today, we consider an unprecedented matter, the formal invitation of Earth representatives to our ranks." A murmur swept through the delegates. Deathworld classification wasn't bestowed lightly. It required a planet's indigenous species to survive in conditions that would annihilate most sentient life. Earth had been monitored for centuries, but its inclusion remained controversial. "Chancellor Vel," rumbled Delegate Mulari, a Class 4 representative, whose silicon-based biology made him appear more like a mobile boulder than a sentient being. "I must again question the necessity of this invitation. These humans have barely achieved interstellar capability." Asha's thin lips curved into what passed for a smile among her kind. "Which is precisely why this is the optimal moment to bring them into our fold," respected Mulari. "Their technological development has reached the tipping point where they will either collapse into self-destruction or expand rapidly beyond their system. Better to guide them now." What she didn't say, what everyone in the chamber understood, was that Class 11 representatives like herself had long maintained dominance by binding emerging species with treaties and regulations before they could fully understand galactic politics. Earth's classification as a potential Class A Deathworld made it too valuable to ignore, but too dangerous to leave uncontrolled. "The preparatory committee has reviewed all data," contributed Delegate Felk, a Class 7 representative, whose translucent exoskeleton pulsed with luminescent fluids. "Humans display extraordinary adaptability. Their planet hosts extreme climate variations, tectonic instability, and biological diversity that should have produced specialized regional subspecies. Instead, they remain singular but versatile." Chancellor Vel nodded. "Indeed, and their psychological profile is equally concerning. They possess both pack-hunter cooperation and territorial aggression. They simultaneously create art, celebrating peace while perfecting weapons of mass destruction." She paused dramatically. "In short, they are unpredictable, which is why binding them to our alliance structure is essential for galactic stability." Unspoken was her personal stake. If Earth formally joined as a Class 8 Deathworld, her political capital would increase significantly. Her faction would gain voting power over resource allocation, technology transfer, and colonization rights. The humans would never know how thoroughly they were being contained, not until it was far too late. "Very well," she concluded, seeing no further objections. "The invitation has been dispatched. Earth's diplomatic vessel Epicus is scheduled to dock within the hour. This meeting is adjourned until the formal reception." As the chamber emptied, Asha beckoned to her chief advisor, a fellow Vakai named Thorn. "Ensure our welcome is appropriately challenging," she murmured. "Nothing obviously hostile, but sufficient to establish the hierarchy. These humans should understand their place from the beginning." Thorn bowed low. "It shall be done, Chancellor. The maintenance systems in their assigned docking bay have already experienced several unfortunate malfunctions. Nothing life-threatening, of course."
"Excellent," she replied. "Let us see how Earth's finest diplomat handles the first test."
She had no way of knowing that Earth hadn't sent a diplomat at all. The Epicus vibrated with the distinctive shudder of docking clamps engaging. Inside the ship's cramped briefing room, Major Marcus Hale of the Earth Space Corps studied the station schematics one final time, committing critical junctures and emergency protocols to memory. This hadn't been his assignment, not even close. He'd been selected to head security for Ambassador Chen, a brilliant negotiator with 3 successful first contact scenarios to his credit. Then, Chen had collapsed with appendicitis 2 days into the journey, leaving Marcus as the ranking officer and, by bureaucratic default, Earth's representative to the Deathworld Alliance. His military training had never prepared him for this kind of diplomacy. "Major," Lieutenant Sato said, appearing at the doorway. "Engineering reports the docking seal integrity is compromised. Station side issue. They're refusing our offers of assistance." Marcus frowned, glancing at the atmospheric readings on his wrist display. "How bad?" "Fluctuating pressure. Micro-leaks in multiple locations. The station's repair systems appear to be malfunctioning." "Intentionally?" Sato's expression remained professional, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Difficult to determine, sir. But the statistical probability of simultaneous failures across independent systems is negligible." Marcus nodded grimly. Ambassador Chen had briefed the crew extensively before his medical emergency. The Deathworld Alliance operated on a strict hierarchy based on planetary classification, and they rigorously tested new members. This wasn't a malfunction. It was a message. "Tell engineering to stand down officially, but have Torres suit up and prepare portable sealing equipment. I'll take point on the diplomatic reading." "Sir?" Sato looked concerned. Protocol suggests I shouldn't fix their station, Lieutenant. But I'm not going to let our first interaction with the Alliance be dictated by leaking airlocks and power fluctuations." He tapped his communication device. "Notify the greeting party there will be a slight delay due to technical issues. Be polite, be respectful, but make it clear we're handling it." 20 minutes later, Marcus stepped through the airlock into the Deathworld station's receiving chamber, wearing not the formal diplomatic attire that had been prepared, but his standard-issue utility uniform, with an engineer's multi-tool visibly attached to his belt. Behind him, Specialist Torres carried a compact equipment case. A delegation of 3 aliens waited, their body language, even across species, telegraphing impatience and mild surprise. The central figure, tall and willowy with pale green skin, stepped forward. "Ambassador Chen, we welcome Major Marcus Hale, Earth Space Corps." Marcus interrupted, with a crisp but respectful nod. "Ambassador Chen is indisposed. I'll be representing Earth for this initial contact." He gestured to the visibly deteriorating seals around the airlock. "And with your permission, we'd like to address the environmental integrity issues in this section before proceeding." The alien's 3 pupilled eyes widened fractionally. "These minor maintenance concerns are scheduled for repair. There is no need for intervention." Marcus smiled politely. "Perhaps on your homeworld, atmospheric leakage is considered minor. On Earth, we consider breathing a priority." Without waiting for permission, he nodded to Torres, who immediately knelt and began unpacking equipment. "We'll have this stabilized in under 15 minutes. I hope this demonstrates our commitment to mutual safety and cooperation." The alien, whom Marcus now recognized from briefing materials as a Vakai, likely Chancellor Vel herself, seemed momentarily at a loss. This wasn't following her script. "This is highly irregular," she finally managed. "The formal reception will be much more pleasant without the distraction of decompression warnings." Marcus finished, already pulling on work gloves. "If you'll excuse me, Chancellor, I believe in addressing problems directly." As he knelt beside Torres and began applying emergency sealant to the worst of the leaks, he caught the specialist's suppressed smile. They both knew this wasn't how diplomatic first contact was supposed to proceed. But then, Marcus suspected the Alliance hadn't planned a fair introduction either. For the next 12 minutes, Marcus and Torres worked efficiently, repairing not just the obvious leaks, but also addressing the power fluctuations affecting the environmental systems. Chancellor Vell and her companions watched in silence, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. When they finished, Marcus straightened, wiped his hands on a utility cloth, and turned to face the Chancellor with a professionally neutral expression. The immediate hazards have been addressed. Your maintenance team should be able to implement proper repairs at their convenience. He smoothly transitioned to a more formal tone. Now, I believe there was a reception planned. Earth is honored to accept the Deathworld Alliance's invitation and looks forward to productive discussions. Chancellor Vell's mouth formed a tight line. Yes, follow me, Major Hale. The emphasis on his military rank carried unmistakable disapproval. It seems Earth has much to learn about galactic diplomatic protocols. As they walked through the gleaming corridors toward the central chamber, Marcus mentally prepared himself. He had studied the Alliance's structure during the journey, how the 12 existing Deathworld representatives were organized by their planet's harshness rating, with Class 12 being the most extreme. Earth was provisionally rated as Class 8, which would place it in the middle of the hierarchy. But Ambassador Chen had warned that this initial classification was deliberately generous, a political tool to entice Earth's participation. The real negotiations would likely attempt to downgrade Earth's status, reducing its influence before it could establish itself. Marcus was no diplomat, but 15 years in the Space Corps had taught him how power dynamics worked. The airlock malfunction had been the first move in a game he wasn't supposed to know he was playing. His response had been instinctive. Fix the problem. Establish competence. Refuse to be intimidated. But watching the rigid posture of Chancellor Vell ahead of him, he wondered if he'd already made a critical error. Too late now. Earth needed this alliance, strategically and technologically, and somehow, he had to secure it without being outmaneuvered by creatures who had been playing interstellar politics for centuries. The reception hall bloomed with exotic flora from a dozen Deathworlds. Each species contained in precisely calibrated environmental chambers. Delegates mingled in small groups, their diverse physiologies a testament to evolution's infinite creativity in the face of hostile conditions. Some floated in dense liquid mediums. Others required atmospheric suits to withstand the station's standard gravity, and a few existed as distributed neural networks inhabiting mechanical shells. Chancellor Vell led Marcus to a central position where the station's artificial gravity matched Earth standard, a courtesy that simultaneously acknowledged his physiological needs while subtly emphasizing his limitation. "Esteemed representatives," she announced, her voice modulated to carry through the varied atmospheric conditions. "I present Major Marcus Hale of Earth, acting representative of humanity." Marcus noted the slight emphasis on acting and suppressed a grimace. He'd made a tactical error by revealing Ambassador Chen's absence so bluntly. In military operations, you never exposed a weakness unless necessary. Political operations, it seemed, operated on similar principles. A hulking silicon-based entity approached, its crystalline surface refracting light in hypnotic patterns. "I am Delegate Malari, representing Crustal, Class 4 Deathworld. Your species evolved on a water-rich planet with moderate gravity and mild temperature variations, yet claims Deathworld status. Explain." Marcus recognized the challenge behind the seemingly innocent question. Ambassador Chen's briefing materials had been explicit. Earth's classification was contentious, with several council members arguing it was too hospitable to qualify. "Delegate Mulari," Marcus responded, consciously adopting a more formal tone than came naturally. "Earth may appear moderate when considering only its physical parameters, but its true harshness lies in its biological complexity. Our planet hosts over 8 million species of life forms, many hostile to human existence. We've evolved alongside predators, microscopic pathogens, and toxic flora. Our immune systems wage constant war against biological threats that mutate faster than we can catalog them. He paused, noting the subtle shifts in posture among the listening delegates. Additionally, Earth's geological instability produces regular natural disasters, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, that have periodically devastated our civilization. We don't merely survive these conditions. We've learned to predict, adapt to, and ultimately harness them. Mulari's crystalline form vibrated slightly, a gesture Marcus couldn't interpret. Yet you require atmospheric stability and narrow temperature ranges to function. As do most species, Marcus countered. The question isn't whether we have physiological requirements, but how we've adapted to overcome our planet's attempts to violate those requirements. Humans have established settlements in deserts exceeding 50 degrees Celsius, in Arctic regions below -40, at elevations where oxygen content is 1/3 normal, and in radiation zones that would kill most unprotected life. A new delegate approached, this one encased in a translucent exoskeleton filled with luminescent fluid. Delegate Felk, Class 7, it introduced itself. Your adaptability argument has merit, human. But primitive adaptability isn't the same as evolutionary hardiness. Your species has used technology to circumvent natural selection. Marcus smiled thinly. With respect, Delegate Felk, technology is our evolutionary adaptation. Just as your species developed biological armor, humans developed extended phenotypes, tools that function as externalized adaptations. Our brains evolved specifically to create solutions to environmental challenges. Chancellor Vell, who had been observing this exchange with increasing displeasure, interjected. Fascinating as this anthropological discussion may be, it distracts from the purpose of this gathering. Major Hale, the Deathworld Council has prepared a formal evaluation protocol to establish Earth's appropriate classification. Evaluation protocol? Marcus asked, immediately alert to the shift in her tone. A series of demonstrations and assessments, she explained smoothly. Nothing burdensome, merely an opportunity for Earth to substantiate its claims of Deathworld adaptation. The first assessment will take place tomorrow at station cycle start. Before Marcus could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the reception hall. Red emergency lights pulsed along the walls, and a computerized voice announced, "Critical power fluctuation detected in primary environmental regulation systems. All non-essential personnel evacuate to designated safety zones." The delegates began moving with practiced efficiency toward the exits. But Marcus noted that several, particularly those with specialized environmental needs, appeared distressed. The chamber's carefully calibrated atmospheric conditions were already showing signs of instability. Chancellor Vell raised her voice over the alarm. "Remain calm. Station protocols will restore functionality momentarily." But Marcus had already activated his wrist display, scanning the rapidly deteriorating environmental readings. This wasn't a minor fluctuation. It was a cascading system failure. And unlike the airlock incident, his instincts told him this wasn't intentional. He caught Lieutenant Sato's eye across the room and gestured sharply. She immediately broke away from the Earth delegation and joined him. "The environmental systems are experiencing a quantum fluctuation in the power distribution nodes," he told her quietly. "At this rate, some of these specialized habitats will fail within minutes." Sato glanced at the struggling delegates. "Sir, this isn't our problem. Protocol suggests—" "Protocol be damned, Lieutenant. Some of these beings will die if those systems fail." He turned to Chancellor Vell, who was attempting to maintain order while station technicians frantically worked at control panels. "Chancellor, your quantum stabilizers are out of alignment. With your permission, I'd like to assist your engineering team." Her triple-pupiled eyes narrowed. "This is an internal station matter. Major, your interference is not required." "With respect, Chancellor, I've handled similar cascade failures during deep space deployments. Time is critical. Without waiting for her response, Marcus activated his communication device. Torres, grab your quantum calibration kit and meet me at Environmental Control Junction E7. As he strode toward the exit, he called back to Sato. Coordinate with the Alliance medical team. Identify which delegates have the most critical environmental needs and prioritize stabilizing their habitats. Chancellor Vell moved with surprising speed to block his path. This is a direct violation of diplomatic protocol. Major Hale, you have no authority to commandeer station operations. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I'm not commandeering anything, Chancellor. I'm offering assistance during an emergency. If you prefer to stand on protocol while your delegates suffer, that's your prerogative. But where I come from, we don't prioritize rules over lives. For a moment, tension crackled between them. Then, a desperate call came from across the chamber. Chancellor, the Mabari delegate's containment field is failing. Marcus looked over to see a gaseous entity beginning to disperse as its pressurized habitat lost integrity. Without waiting for permission, he sprinted across the room, pulling his multi-tool from his belt. The control panel for the habitat was flashing with critical warnings in an alien script, but the underlying engineering principles were universal. Torres, he shouted into his communicator. I need emergency field stabilization at the reception hall, northwest quadrant. Within moments, Torres arrived with the requested equipment. Together, they bypassed the failing regulators and established a manual containment field around the Mabari delegate. Similar crises were developing throughout the chamber as the power fluctuations intensified. For the next 17 minutes, Marcus and Torres worked feverishly alongside the station's technical team, stabilizing critical systems and preventing catastrophic environmental failures. Their human adaptability, the very trait the Alliance had been questioning, proved invaluable as they improvised solutions using unfamiliar technology. When the crisis finally passed and systems returned to normal operation, Marcus found himself surrounded by a mixture of grateful delegates and suspicious officials. Chancellor Vell watched from a distance, her expression unreadable. A small delegate with metallic scales approached Marcus. I am Krill, Class 7 representative. Your intervention saved several lives today. Human. My faction will remember this. Before Marcus could respond, Chancellor Vell's amplified voice addressed the chamber. The emergency has been contained. All delegates are requested to return to their quarters, while a full system diagnostic is performed. The formal evaluation of Earth's status will proceed as scheduled tomorrow. As the gathering dispersed, Marcus caught sight of a stocky, heavily muscled alien watching him with particular intensity. Unlike most delegates, this one wore functional utility clothing rather than ceremonial garb. When their eyes met, the alien nodded almost imperceptibly before turning away. Lieutenant Sato appeared at Marcus's side. Sir, I've received a message from Ship's Medical. Ambassador Chen's condition has stabilized, but he remains unable to assume diplomatic duties. Marcus sighed. Then it looks like I'm still Earth's representative. Have our team analyze everything that happened during this accident. I want to know if it was genuine or another test. And if it was genuine, then we just passed a test they didn't intend to give us, Marcus replied grimly. Which means tomorrow's official evaluation will be even more challenging. Marcus woke to the insistent beeping of his communication device. The station's artificial day cycle had barely begun, but the urgent tone suggested this wasn't a routine call. He activated the device to find Specialist Torres's concerned face on the screen. Major, you need to see this immediately. The station's environmental systems have been compromised. Another power fluctuation? Marcus asked, already pulling on his uniform. Worse, someone has introduced a biological contaminant into the water reclamation system. It's spreading through the hydroponics bays and threatening the station's oxygen production. Marcus frowned. This didn't feel like another test. It was too destructive, too indiscriminate. Have you notified station security? Yes, sir. They're evacuating affected areas, but they're struggling to identify the contaminant. It's not in their database. I'll be right there. Contact Dr. Patel and have her bring analytical equipment from our medical bay. 15 minutes later, Marcus stood in the station's central hydroponics chamber, surveying the damage. What should have been lush green vegetation was now covered in a purplish film that seemed to be consuming the plants from within. Station technicians in protective gear were attempting to contain the spread, but their efforts appeared ineffective. Chancellor Vell arrived with an entourage of security personnel, her normally composed demeanor visibly strained. Major Hale, I was informed your team is involved. We're offering assistance, Marcus corrected. Dr. Patel is analyzing samples of the contaminant now. As if on cue, Dr. Patel approached, her expression grave. Major, I've identified the organism. It's a modified strain of Terran purple algae, specifically engineered to thrive in the station's water system. A ripple of murmurs passed through the gathered aliens. Chancellor Vell's eyes narrowed dangerously. A Terran organism? Major, this is a very serious accusation. Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. This wasn't just a crisis. It was a deliberate attempt to frame Earth's delegation. Doctor, could this strain have naturally evolved on Earth? Absolutely not, Patel replied firmly. This has been genetically modified to target the specific mineral composition of the station's hydroponic solution. It's bioengineered sabotage. Chancellor, Marcus said carefully, I understand how this appears, but I assure you, no member of Earth's delegation would introduce a harmful organism into your station. This is clearly an attempt to sabotage both your facility and our reputation. Chancellor Vell's expression remained frigid. Bold claims require evidence. Major, at present, all evidence points to your delegation. Then let us help clear our name by solving this crisis. Marcus countered. Dr. Patel has identified the organism. Now we can develop a countermeasure. The formal evaluation of Earth's status has been postponed indefinitely. Chancellor Vell announced. Until this matter is resolved, your delegation will be restricted to your quarters and ship. Marcus recognized the political maneuvering at work. By isolating Earth's team, whoever had planted the contaminant would achieve their goal, preventing Earth from establishing legitimate status within the alliance. He needed to change the dynamic. Chancellor, with respect, that approach guarantees failure. If we're confined, we can't help solve the problem. And if the problem isn't solved quickly, your station's life support will begin to fail within hours. He gestured to the rapidly spreading contamination. This isn't just about Earth's reputation. Lives are at stake. Before she could respond, the stocky alien Marcus had noticed at the reception approached. The human is correct, Chancellor. My analysis confirms this contamination will reach critical systems within 3 station cycles. Chancellor Vell seemed annoyed by the interruption. Engineer Dern, your expertise in maintenance systems is noted, but security protocols won't matter if we can't breathe. Dern interrupted bluntly. His species apparently lacked the deference other delegates showed the Chancellor. I recommend allowing the Earth team to assist. Their knowledge of this Terran organism could be crucial. Marcus seized the opportunity. Here's what I propose. Dr. Patel works with your science team to develop a countermeasure while I help Engineer Dern implement emergency filtration protocols to slow the spread. Meanwhile, your security can continue investigating how this organism was introduced. Chancellor Vell hesitated, clearly weighing political considerations against practical necessity. Finally, she nodded curtly. Very well, but you will be under constant supervision, and this incident will be formally recorded in Earth's evaluation. Understood, Marcus agreed, already turning to coordinate with Dr. Patel. Over the next several hours, The joint human-alien team worked frantically to combat the spreading contamination. Dr. Patel identified a chemical compound that inhibited the modified algae's growth, while Marcus and engineer Dern implemented an emergency filtration system to prevent it from reaching critical life support components. As they worked, Marcus found Dern to be surprisingly forthcoming. The alien, who identified himself as a Class 8 representative from a heavy-gravity world called Gravar, seemed less concerned with political positioning than most Alliance members. "You're handling this well for a diplomat," Dern commented, as they reconfigured a filtration array. "I'm not a diplomat," Marcus admitted. "I'm a Space Corps engineering officer who got stuck with the job when our actual diplomat needed emergency surgery." Dern made a rumbling sound that Marcus interpreted as laughter. "That explains much. The Council expected a politician they could manipulate. Instead, they got someone who actually solves problems. Is that unusual in the Alliance?" Dern glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Let's just say the Deathworld classification system isn't entirely about planetary conditions. It's a political tool. Those at the top, Class 11 and 12, maintain their position by ensuring newcomers enter at disadvantageous rankings." Marcus absorbed this information, connecting it with Ambassador Chen's briefings. "And Earth's provisional Class 8 status." "Unusually generous," Dern confirmed. "Which is why Chancellor Vell and her faction are working so hard to undermine it. If Earth maintains Class 8, it disrupts certain power balances they've cultivated for centuries." "You think they're behind this contamination?" "I didn't say that," Dern replied carefully. "But consider who benefits from a crisis that specifically implicates Earth." Before Marcus could pursue this line of thought, an alert sounded from the filtration system. The contamination had reached a critical junction, leading to the station's main oxygen processors. "We need to manually override this section," Marcus said, already reaching for his tools. "Impossible," Dern responded. "That area is flooded with the contaminated solution. The protective gear we have won't withstand full immersion." Marcus studied the schematics on his display. "If we don't stop it here, the entire oxygen production system will be compromised within the hour. Then we evacuate," Dern stated matter-of-factly. "The station has emergency protocols." But Marcus was already removing his outer jacket. "Earth Standard Emergency Protocols. 2. Lieutenant Sato," he called to his officer, who was coordinating with station security nearby. "Get me the isolation suit from our emergency kit." Sato's eyes widened. "Sir, that's a prototype. It hasn't been certified for non-Earth biologicals. It's certified for toxic environments, which is what we've got. That's good enough." He turned back to Dern. "I'll need exact instructions for the manual override sequence." "This is unnecessary risk," Dern protested. "Station protocols." "Station protocols would have you evacuate and lose the entire hydroponics bay." Marcus interrupted. "Earth protocols say we try everything before we give up. Now, are you going to give me those override instructions or not?" 20 minutes later, Marcus stood at the entrance to the flooded junction, encased in a sleek isolation suit that represented Earth's latest advancement in hazardous environment protection. The chamber beyond was completely submerged in purplish liquid, with crucial control systems visible through the murk. "The manual override requires 3 simultaneous activations," Dern explained through the communication system. "It was designed to prevent accidental triggering." "Then we'll do it sequentially," Marcus replied, checking his equipment one final time. "Just talk me through the procedure." With a final nod to the anxious observers, Marcus sealed his helmet and stepped into the contaminated chamber. The liquid closed around him, thick and viscous. His suit's external sensors immediately registered the caustic nature of the solution. It was actively attempting to break down the suit's protective layers. Moving carefully through the weighted environment, Marcus reached the first control panel and began the override sequence. Each movement had to be precise. The viscous liquid made fine motor control challenging. and the deteriorating visibility complicated matters further. He had just completed the second activation when his suit's integrity alarm sounded. The contaminated solution was eroding the outer layer faster than expected. "Major, your suit is compromising." Sato's voice came through the communication system. "Protocol dictates immediate extraction." "Almost done," Marcus responded, his breathing controlled despite the danger. 60 seconds to complete the sequence. As he worked on the final override, he could feel the liquid beginning to seep through compromised seams in the suit. His exposed skin burned where it made contact, fighting through the discomfort. He completed the activation sequence just as the filtration system engaged with a mechanical groan. Powerful pumps began drawing the contaminated solution from the chamber, processing it through the emergency filters Marcus and Dern had installed. Within moments, the liquid level began to drop. Marcus staggered toward the exit, his movements increasingly labored as more of the caustic solution penetrated his failing suit. When he finally reached the chamber entrance, emergency personnel immediately pulled him through and began decontamination procedures. As the medical team worked to neutralize the contaminant on his exposed skin, Marcus noticed a crowd had gathered, not just station technicians and Earth personnel, but representatives from various Deathworld delegations. Their expressions ranged from concern to grudging respect. Among them stood Chancellor Vell, her face unreadable. "The contamination has been contained," announced one of the station technicians. "Emergency filters are functioning at 97% efficiency. Primary oxygen production can resume within 6 hours." A murmur of relief passed through the gathered aliens. Dr. Patel, who had been monitoring the decontamination process, turned to address Marcus. "You'll have chemical burns on approximately 15% of your body. Major. Nothing our regenerative treatments can't handle, but you'll be uncomfortable for a few days." Marcus nodded, wincing as the neutralizing solution stung his exposed skin. Small price to pay for breathing. Engineer Dern pushed through the crowd to stand before Marcus. "Your actions were unconventional, human, but effective." There was new respect in his voice. Few species would risk individual harm for collective benefit, especially among those they barely know. Before Marcus could respond, Chancellor Vell stepped forward. "While we appreciate Major Hale's intervention, the matter of how Terran algae was introduced to our station remains unresolved. Earth's delegation remains under investigation." Marcus struggled to his feet, ignoring Dr. Patel's protests. "Chancellor, whoever engineered this contaminant wanted 2 outcomes: damage to your station and blame on Earth. By restricting our movement and participation, you're giving them exactly what they want."
"A convenient argument," she replied coldly. "But the evidence—"
"Is circumstantial at best," Marcus interrupted. "If Earth wanted to sabotage the Alliance, why would we use an easily identifiable Earth-based organism? And why would we then devote our resources to stopping it?" He gestured to his injury. "Does this look like the action of someone implementing a sabotage plan?" Delegate Krill, the metallic-scaled representative who had spoken to Marcus after the previous emergency, moved to join the conversation. "The human's logic is sound, Chancellor, and his actions speak louder than theories. I move that Earth's evaluation proceed as scheduled, while the investigation continues independently." Chancellor Vell's expression tightened, but Marcus could see she was outnumbered. Too many delegates had witnessed his willingness to risk personal harm to protect the station. "Very well," she conceded reluctantly. "The formal evaluation will begin tomorrow, assuming Major Hale is sufficiently recovered." The slight emphasis suggested she hoped he wouldn't be. As the crowd dispersed, Lieutenant Sato approached. "Sir, I've been coordinating with station security. They've found something interesting in the maintenance logs. The contamination was introduced through a service port that only senior officials can access." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Keep investigating, but quietly. Whoever did this has high-level access and a strong motive to prevent Earth from joining the Alliance as an equal. We need to understand why. And the evaluation tomorrow? Marcus grimaced as Dr. Patel applied regenerative treatment to his chemical burns. Let's just say I'm motivated to make a strong showing. Earth needs this alliance, Lieutenant. And based on what I've seen so far, I think some parts of the alliance need Earth too, whether they realize it yet or not. The evaluation chamber resembled a cross between a scientific laboratory and a ceremonial arena. Tiered seating surrounded a central platform where various testing equipment had been arranged. All 12 Deathworld representatives occupied their designated positions, with Chancellor Vell presiding from the highest tier. Marcus entered wearing his formal Space Corps uniform, the collar adjusted to accommodate the medical dressings on his neck and shoulders. Dr. Patel had spent the night applying accelerated regeneration treatments to his chemical burns. But significant discomfort remained, a fact he was determined not to display. Major Marcus Hale, representing Earth, announced the Chamber's automated system. Deathworld Classification Evaluation, Session 1. Chancellor Vell rose from her seat. This evaluation will assess Earth's suitability for Deathworld classification through a series of standardized tests measuring adaptability, resilience, and problem-solving under extreme conditions. The provisional Class 8 designation will be confirmed or adjusted based on these results. Marcus nodded respectfully, though inwardly he recognized this for what it was, a political process disguised as objective assessment. After his conversations with Dern and Krill, he understood that the Alliance's classification system was as much about maintaining power hierarchies as recognizing evolutionary achievement. The first evaluation concerns environmental adaptability. Chancellor Vell continued. Major Hale will enter the simulation chamber, where he will experience rapidly changing conditions representative of various Deathworld environments. His physiological responses and problem-solving capabilities will be monitored. As Marcus approached the enclosed simulation chamber, Lieutenant Sato caught his eye from the Earth delegation's observation area. Her subtle hand gesture conveyed a warning. Their analysis suggested the simulation parameters had been modified beyond standard protocols. Marcus wasn't surprised. After the failed contamination attempt, he expected Chancellor Vell's faction to pursue more direct methods of undermining Earth's position. Entering the chamber, he prepared himself for whatever challenges awaited. The transparent walls sealed behind him, and a computerized voice announced, "Simulation beginning in 3, 2, 1. The environment transformed instantly. Temperature plummeted to near freezing, while atmospheric pressure increased by 30%. The floor beneath Marcus tilted at a sharp angle, forcing him to quickly adjust his stance to maintain balance. "Subject will navigate from current position to exit point," announced the voice, as a glowing marker appeared at the far end of the chamber. "Environmental conditions will fluctuate throughout the trial." Marcus began moving toward the marker, his training kicking in automatically. He regulated his breathing to compensate for the increased pressure and kept his movements measured to conserve body heat in the cold environment. Halfway to the target, the chamber flooded with a thick, amber-colored gas. Marcus immediately recognized the danger. The gas was likely designed to impair vision and respiration. He pulled a compact filter mask from his utility belt and secured it over his nose and mouth. Standard Space Corps equipment included basic respiratory protection for unknown environments. The ambient temperature suddenly spiked to desert conditions. Sweat beaded on Marcus's forehead as his body struggled to adjust from extreme cold to extreme heat in seconds. Such rapid transitions would incapacitate most beings, but humans possessed remarkable thermoregulation capabilities compared to many species. As he neared the exit marker, gravity increased dramatically, simulating perhaps twice Earth standard. Marcus's muscles strained against the unexpected weight, but years of specialized training allowed him to continue forward, albeit at a reduced pace. He could hear murmurs from the observing delegates as he maintained progress despite the escalating difficulty. The final obstacle came in the form of electrical discharges, arcing across the chamber floor. This wasn't merely a test of physiological endurance anymore. It required problem-solving under duress. Marcus quickly analyzed the pattern of the discharges and identified a safe path through the electrical field. When he finally reached the exit marker, the simulation dissolved around him. The chamber returned to normal conditions, and the door slid open. Marcus stepped out, controlling his breathing to hide his exertion as he faced the assembled representatives. Chancellor Vell's expression was tight with displeasure. "The human has completed the first evaluation. Results will be recorded and analyzed." But Engineer Dern was already on his feet. "Point of procedure, Chancellor. The simulation parameters exceeded authorized protocols by 47%. Environmental transitions of that magnitude violate safety guidelines for all classification levels." A murmur of surprise rippled through the delegates. Clearly, not all had been aware of the modifications. "Engineering fluctuations are within acceptable margins," Chancellor Vell responded dismissively. "The purpose is to test true adaptability, not rehearsed responses to standard conditions." Marcus recognized the political opening. "If I may, Chancellor, Earth welcomes rigorous testing. We have nothing to hide regarding our adaptability." He paused, making eye contact with various delegates. "In fact, I wonder if all current Alliance members underwent equally challenging evaluations when they joined." The question hung in the air like a challenge. Several of the lower-tier representatives shifted uncomfortably. "That is not relevant to these proceedings," Chancellor Vell stated coldly. "We will proceed to the second evaluation, technological problem-solving under pressure." This evaluation proved even more blatantly biased than the first. Marcus was presented with a malfunctioning life support system based on technology Earth had never encountered. With minimal instruction and a deliberately insufficient toolset, nevertheless, he managed to stabilize the system by applying universal engineering principles and improvising tools from available materials. The third evaluation focused on response to biological threats, a particularly pointed choice given the recent contamination incident. Marcus was required to identify and neutralize a series of pathogenic samples using only basic analytical equipment. Thanks to Dr. Patel's rapid briefing between evaluations, he successfully categorized each sample and proposed effective containment protocols. By the time the day's evaluations concluded, the political landscape within the chamber had visibly shifted. The lower-tier representatives, classes 3 through 7, were showing increased support for Earth's position, while Chancellor Vell's faction appeared increasingly frustrated by Marcus's performance. As Marcus prepared to leave the chamber, Delegate Krill approached him. "Most impressive. Major. Few species could adapt so quickly to unexpected challenges. That's humanity's primary evolutionary advantage," Marcus replied. "We're not the strongest, fastest, or most environmentally specialized species, but we adapt rapidly and work collectively to overcome limitations." Krill's metallic scales rippled in what Marcus had come to recognize as amusement. "An advantage indeed, and perhaps why certain factions find your kind so concerning." He lowered his voice. "There will be a gathering of Class 3 through 8 representatives in the secondary recreation area this evening. Your presence would be welcomed." Marcus understood the invitation for what it was, a political opportunity. The Alliance wasn't monolithic. Factions existed, and Earth's unexpected performance was catalyzing realignments. "I'll be there," he promised. Later that evening, as Marcus approached the designated recreation area, Lieutenant Sato contacted him through his communication device. "Sir, security analysis has completed. We've traced the contamination source." Her voice was tight with controlled anger. The modified algae was introduced through Chancellor Vell's private access codes. Marcus absorbed this information without breaking stride. "Do we have definitive proof?" The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. The access point was restricted to Class 11 and 12 authorization. Only 3 individuals could have done it, and only Chancellor Vell had both opportunity and motive. "Keep this information secure," Marcus instructed. "We'll need it at the right moment." The recreation area was already filled with representatives when Marcus arrived. He recognized delegates from at least 5 different Deathworlds, all classified between 3 and 8. Engineer Dern approached immediately, guiding him to a central position. "You've caused quite a stir, human," Dern rumbled. "No provisional species has ever completed modified evaluations with your level of success." "Success?" Marcus questioned.
Chancellor Vell doesn't seem impressed.
"Chancellor Vell is not the entire Alliance," interjected Delegate Felk, joining their conversation. "Many of us have long questioned the concentration of power among Classes 11 and 12. Marcus studied the gathered representatives with new understanding. This wasn't merely a social gathering. It was the formation of a political coalition. "The classification system itself has become corrupted," continued Felk. "Originally designed to recognize evolutionary achievement, it now serves to entrench privilege. Lower classified worlds receive fewer resources, less advanced technology sharing, and reduced voting rights in council decisions."
"And Earth threatens this system?" Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer.
Dern nodded gravely.
"Your species demonstrates high adaptability, despite evolving on what should be, by objective measures, a mid-range challenging planet. This contradicts the foundational premise that only the most extreme environments produce the most advanced species."
"If Earth maintains Class 8 status," added Krill, joining their circle, "it creates a precedent. Other worlds might demand reclassification based on adaptability, rather than raw environmental harshness." "And the contamination incident?" Marcus asked quietly. The representatives exchanged glances. "An attempt to disqualify Earth before you could complete the formal evaluation," Krill confirmed. "We suspected higher-tier involvement but lacked proof." Marcus carefully considered his next words. "And if such proof existed?" A charged silence fell over the group. Finally, Dern spoke.
"It would justify a formal challenge to the Council leadership, something not attempted in 700 cycles."
"Earth didn't come here to upend your political system," Marcus clarified. "We came seeking alliance and mutual benefit." "Yet your very presence exposes the system's flaws," Felk replied. "Perhaps that itself is the greatest benefit you could bring." As the conversation continued, Marcus realized he faced a critical decision. Earth needed the technological and strategic advantages of Alliance membership. But did they need to accept a subordinate position to achieve them? The evidence against Chancellor Vell offered leverage, but using it would mean taking sides in an internal power struggle he barely understood. By the time he returned to the Earth delegation's quarters, Marcus had formed a plan. It was risky, potentially disastrous for Earth's relationship with the Alliance, but it aligned with both his military ethics and what he now understood about the Alliance's political reality. "Lieutenant," he called to Sato as he entered. "Contact the Epicus. I need a secure channel to Earth Command immediately." "Sir?" "We're about to force a reset on interstellar diplomacy," Marcus explained grimly. "I'd like at least nominal authorization before I do it." The council chamber hummed with tension as representatives gathered for Earth's final evaluation session. After 3 days of increasingly difficult tests, all of which Marcus had completed successfully, if not perfectly, today would determine Earth's official classification within the Alliance. Chancellor Vell took her position at the highest point of the chamber, flanked by the Class 12 representative, a being composed primarily of plasma energy contained within a specialized field generator. The lower-tier representatives arranged themselves according to rank. Though Marcus noted with interest that several had positioned themselves closer to each other than protocol dictated, suggesting coalition building was well underway. "The Council recognizes Major Marcus Hale of Earth," Chancellor Vell announced formally. Today's session will conclude Earth's evaluation process and determine its permanent classification status. Marcus stepped forward, wearing his formal Space Corps uniform, with all commendations visible. The chemical burns from the contamination incident had mostly healed, though faint marks remained on his neck, visible reminders of his willingness to risk personal harm for collective benefit. "Before we proceed," Marcus stated clearly, his voice carrying throughout the chamber, "Earth wishes to address a matter of Alliance security that directly impacts these proceedings." Chancellor Vell's triple-pupiled eyes narrowed. "Evaluation protocols do not allow for preliminary statements." "This isn't about evaluation protocols," Marcus countered. "It concerns the intentional sabotage of this station's life support systems using modified Terran algae, an act that endangered every delegate present and was deliberately designed to implicate Earth." A murmur spread through the assembled representatives. Chancellor Vell's posture stiffened visibly. "That matter remains under investigation and is not relevant to today's proceedings," she stated coldly. "With respect, Chancellor, it is entirely relevant." Marcus activated his wrist display, projecting data into the chamber's holographic system. "Earth's security team has completed a thorough analysis of the contamination incident. The evidence clearly shows the modified algae was introduced through access points restricted to Class 11 and 12 authorization." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Chancellor Vell slammed her ceremonial staff against the floor, demanding silence. "These accusations are baseless and inappropriate. This is a transparent attempt to distract from Earth's evaluation." Marcus continued calmly. "The algae itself is particularly interesting. While based on Terran biology, it contains genetic modifications that could only have been created with advanced knowledge of both Earth's biological systems and this station's environmental composition." He paused significantly. "Knowledge possessed by very few individuals." "You dare accuse the Council leadership of sabotage?" Chancellor Vell's voice quivered with rage. "I'm presenting evidence of a security breach that endangered this entire station," Marcus corrected. "Evidence that suggests the Deathworld classification system itself has become corrupted from its original purpose." He turned to address the entire chamber now. "In my brief time here, I've observed that the Alliance operates not as a true coalition of equals, but as a hierarchical structure where classification determines rights, resources, and influence. This system might have begun as a recognition of evolutionary achievement, but it has devolved into a tool for maintaining political dominance." Several of the lower-tier representatives were nodding in agreement. Delegates Dern, Krill, and Felk had moved to strategic positions around the chamber, ready to support Marcus's challenge. "The sabotage attempt," Marcus continued, "represents a desperate measure by those who fear what Earth's inclusion might mean for this power structure. Because Earth, a planet with moderate environmental challenges by your standards, has produced a species with adaptability that rivals or exceeds many higher classified worlds." Chancellor Vell's voice cut through the growing commotion. "This is sedition! Guards, remove the human representative!" But as security personnel moved toward Marcus, delegates from classes 3 through 8 formed a protective circle around him. "We invoke the right of challenge," announced Delegate Krill formally. "Under the founding charter of the Deathworld Alliance, any representative may challenge leadership decisions when presented with evidence of corruption or abuse of power." The Class 12 representative, who had remained silent until now, spoke in a voice that seemed to vibrate the air itself. "The right of challenge is acknowledged. Evidence will be evaluated by neutral parties." Chancellor Vell whirled to face her superior. "Most honored delegate, this is clearly a coordinated attempt to—" "The evidence will be evaluated," the Class 12 representative repeated with finality. "Until such time, these proceedings are suspended." For the next 12 hours, the station existed in a state of political limbo. Marcus and the Earth delegation remained under protective custody of the coalition representatives, while station security conducted a thorough investigation of the contamination evidence. Throughout the Alliance, word spread of Earth's challenge to the established order. When the Council reconvened, the chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every member world had arrived to witness the unprecedented proceedings. The Class 12 representative took the central position, with Chancellor Vell noticeably displaced to a secondary seat. "The investigation has been completed," announced the plasma energy being. "The evidence confirms that the biological sabotage originated from access points under Chancellor Vell's authority. Further analysis of communication records indicates a deliberate attempt to manipulate Earth's evaluation process to ensure a classification no higher than Class 3, regardless of performance." The chamber erupted in shouts and exclamations. Marcus remained stoically silent as the political earthquake he had triggered continued to unfold. "In accordance with Alliance Charter," continued the Class 12 representative, once order was restored, "Chancellor Vell is removed from her position pending full disciplinary proceedings. Furthermore, the right of challenge has exposed fundamental flaws in our classification system that require immediate address." The being turned toward Marcus. "Major Hale, as Earth's representative and the initiator of this challenge, you are invited to participate in the Reformation Committee that will be established to revise Alliance structures." Marcus stepped forward. "Earth appreciates the invitation and the recognition of wrongdoing. However, before we discuss reformation, I must clarify Earth's position." He surveyed the assembled delegates. "We did not come here to upend your political system or to claim superiority. We came seeking partnership based on mutual respect and recognition of our unique strengths." He gestured to the tiered arrangement of the chamber itself. "The problem isn't that Earth was being classified too low. The problem is that the classification system itself has become a tool for division rather than cooperation. Each world represented here evolved unique solutions to unique challenges. The measure of our worth shouldn't be the harshness of our homeworlds, but what we can contribute to our collective future." A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Delegate Dern spoke up. "What do you propose, human?" "A fundamental restructuring," Marcus replied. "Not based on arbitrary classifications, but on recognized areas of expertise and contribution. Some worlds excel at biological sciences, others at engineering, others at environmental adaptation. Let these strengths determine influence in relevant decisions, rather than a single hierarchical ranking." The Class 12 representative's plasma form pulsed thoughtfully. "You suggest dismantling a system that has existed for millennia." "I suggest evolving it," Marcus countered. "Just as life on each of our worlds evolved to meet changing conditions. Systems that cannot adapt eventually fail. Isn't that the very principle upon which the Deathworld concept was founded?" Over the next several days, the Alliance underwent the most significant transformation in its history. The classification system was not abandoned entirely, but substantially reformed. A new charter established specialized councils focusing on different aspects of interstellar cooperation, with representation based on relevant expertise rather than planetary classification alone. Earth was formally invited to join as a full member, with particular recognition of human adaptability, problem-solving, and integrative thinking. The provisional Class 8 designation became largely symbolic as the entire structure of influence within the Alliance shifted toward a more collaborative model. On the final day of negotiations, as Marcus prepared to return to the Epicus, he was approached by the former Chancellor Vell. Her political downfall had been swift and complete, though she retained her position as her planet's representative under the new system. "You have destroyed work that took centuries to build, human," she said, her voice lacking its former authority. Marcus regarded her thoughtfully. "No, I helped expose work that had already destroyed itself from within. The Alliance was founded on principles of mutual survival and cooperation among species that had conquered the harshest environments in the galaxy. Somewhere along the way, It became about maintaining power, rather than sharing strength.
And you believe this new system will fare better? Her tone conveyed deep skepticism.
I believe any system that values contribution over classification has a better chance of serving all its members, Marcus replied, including yours. She studied him with those triple-pupilled eyes. You were never meant to be Earth's representative. You lack diplomatic training, political sophistication, but I understand systems, chancellor, engineering, organizational, political. They all follow similar principles. When components work against each other, rather than in coordination, the system fails. He offered a respectful nod. Earth looks forward to working alongside your world in the Reformed Alliance. As Marcus departed the chamber, Engineer Dern fell into step beside him. You're leaving. My assignment was to establish Earth's position in the Alliance, Marcus explained. That's been accomplished. Earth will send properly trained diplomatic personnel to manage ongoing relations. You could stay, Dern suggested. Your perspective has proven valuable. Marcus smiled slightly. I'm a Space Corps engineer, Dern. I fix broken systems, then move on to the next assignment. Besides, he added, glancing back at the council chamber, I think I've caused enough diplomatic upheaval for one mission. Dern made the rumbling sound that passed for laughter among his species. The Deathworld Alliance will never forget the day they invited humans to join, though perhaps not for the reasons they expected. That's humanity for you, Marcus replied with a shrug. Adapting to challenges, solving problems, and occasionally redesigning interstellar political structures. As the Epicus departed the station, Marcus stood at the observation port, watching the massive structure recede into the darkness. Lieutenant Sato joined him, offering a data tablet with their next assignment.
Interesting mission, sir, she commented. I don't think it went quite how Earth Command expected.
Probably not, Marcus agreed, accepting the tablet. But sometimes the best way to join a system is to improve it first. Do you think the reforms will last? Marcus considered the question seriously. The Alliance existed for thousands of years under the old system. Change won't be easy or immediate, but we've given them a starting point, a recognition that cooperation based on mutual respect is stronger than hierarchy based on arbitrary classifications. And Earth's position? Secure, Marcus replied confidently. Not because we forced our way into their power structure, but because we helped create a better one. He smiled slightly. Besides, I suspect they'll think twice before underestimating humans again. As the Epicus engaged its faster-than-light drive and streaked away toward Earth, the newly reformed Deathworld Alliance continued its first tentative steps toward a more equitable future. A future that had been irrevocably altered by humanity's unexpected representative and his refusal to accept systems that didn't work as they should. The greatest regret of the Deathworld Alliance wasn't that they had invited humans to join them. It was that they had underestimated just how thoroughly humans would transform everything they touched, including interstellar politics.